On this episode, why closing takes more. Hey everybody, this is the quarter show, and we are talking about why closing takes more. It's been kind of a topic the last couple of weeks, but I'm always amazed personally, and I was saying to my sales team this morning, we had a sales muster, and I was saying how, closing is a specific one, and obviously in sales, closing, there's a lot of emphasis on closing, and look, closing starts truthfully at discovery call. When you have a discovery call, you have the initial call. That's really where closing actually starts, and if you do a great discovery call, and then a great follow-up call and a great selling and handling call and proposal review and all these different calls, obviously they all lead to making closing easier, and that's kind of a lot of the work is done there. But when you go into the closing stages, I've often found that the estimation of effort related to closing is always much more than I think. So I go in, and I've done a lot of deals. And I still go into deals thinking, I have an idea of the work, of what's required to get it closed. And I cannot tell you how many times I'm always amazed at how it seems like consistently it takes more than I think it should, or that I had sort of allocated for it. And it seems to be true on every deal that I do, certainly big deals. Nowadays I work on larger deals and things like that, and I try and work on possibly the more complex deals and things like this, but closing is often, it takes more than what you think. And so you may think that, I have this one phone call and I send this and I do that and we should be good. And I have found that with salespeople, one of the biggest things, the reason your deal doesn't close, one of the biggest reasons your deal doesn't close is strictly because you're not matching up the work required, that what you're doing is not matching up to make it happen, right? So like the action you're taking, the work required is here, and the action you're taking is here. And it would be similar to if you were shooting baskets, and the thing is 10 feet out, and you're shooting at 5 feet. You keep missing. You just keep missing and missing and missing. You're like, And a lot of salespeople have found that in closing stages, they get stuck. And it's not closing, but they're not doing the work connected to what's required to get it closed. And so it never goes over the finish line, right? And so, for me personally, what I may think should have taken 3 phone calls ends up taking 10. And what, I may have to send the proposal 2 times or edit the proposal 2 or 3 times, negotiate back and forth, ends up going 8 times. I think I need to talk to 1 or 2 people. I end up having to talk to 6 people. I think I'm going to have to negotiate this one point and we're good. I have to negotiate that point 5 times. The emphasis and the horsepower, and by the way, even time, right? The estimation of effort on time. You think, I do this and we're good and I'm going to sign off today, and you think it should be today. Ends up being 28 hours later, 32 hours later, 48 hours later. And so you have to, you try to do everything. So when you're in the closing stages, you have to put all of your fiber into it, all of your intensity and horsepower into it. And you have to stay hyper focused on the deal and jostle between confronting everything that needs to get confronted, taking action, and controlling every single sort of aspect within the environment to take it over the finish line. Look, even asking, for example. You may think that, you ask once or twice or whatever and you're good, and you might have to ask 15 times. They may say, no, we're not ready, we can't do this, and timing, and after the new year, and first quarter, blah. You say, totally got it. And each thing that comes up, you're saying, totally got it, handle. Okay, let's just get this thing wrapped up and signed off, and let me put this in front of you. I'll send the proposal, fix that, and send it back over. Can you sign that today? Can you get that done today? And you may say a phrase of, can you sign off on that today? Can you get that done today? And a form of asking, you may find that you have to say that 15 times, whereas you had predicted 2 or 3. And I think there's a huge falling down point for closing and for salespeople. And this is my opinion, but what I've found is that when I'm closing deals, I can shorten the runway by overshooting it in a massive way and really confronting and handling everything that comes up and really running up and down the court to make sure that I'm talking to all the right people, I'm changing the proposal. I mean, I don't care if I change the proposal 15 times in the scope of 12 hours, I'll do it. And I change it, go back and forth and do all the different things, and then ask, handle the right people, make sure everybody's on board, sell that person, sell this person, round everything up and take it over the finish line, get it done and concluded. And I have found categorically every single time the estimation of effort and the actual work required to do it is greater than what I had initially predicted. If I had to write down, if somebody forced me to take a snapshot and write down what I thought it might take, and then what it actually took is probably going to be 3 to 4 times more than what I thought it actually would take. And so I'll talk to other salespeople and they have deals and I'm working with my own sales team and things like this. And it's like their work is not matched up. In many cases, not all the time. Some people definitely get it. But our company, external company, people do this because they're not fully confronting the cycle and they're not fully matching the work. But the work they're doing is dramatically behind what's required to get it closed, right?
And there's a lot of factors that you're dealing with. I'm kind of having realizations as you're talking, just like about different things I'm working on.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of factors, human factors, material universe factors. There are a lot of factors going on, and they don't matter. All that matters, in my view, and from what you're saying, is the amount of action you have to take is way more than nearly all estimates.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of reasons. There's all sorts of things that go on with a human being, with a business person. There's all sorts of factors. There's all sorts of logistics and different things, and none of them ultimately matter. You don't tinker with those necessarily. Don't get focused in on those. You have to really work more than one would think. You have to ask very often more direct questions, get more direct answers, and really get to the bottom of what's needed. Because part of what Robert's talking about in terms of the work is because Robert takes time out of deals so that they happen now as opposed to later. Because fine, you let anything happen in this world and eventually something's going to happen.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A year down the seriously, time will just go on and on forever, and then interest drops on the part of a person. Like when you're in your sales, if you let things go, interest, you have the human element, you have the person themselves. Interest drops, they forget, they're off onto something else shiny and new, and the deal is back to the very beginning, if not prior, if not even before that.
In the book Rework with Jason Fried, who founded what was 37 Signals, and they changed their name to Basecamp. We use Basecamp. Great. He's a great CEO in my opinion. And he actually talks about estimation of effort, in fact, and he talked about how he felt that, not estimation of effort in so many words, but basically that, and he talked about how human beings are chronically bad at estimating things, and they either estimate low or estimate way high, but basically chronically off. And I remember reading that, and that really resonated with me, and I really found that to be true. I do believe people are chronically off, but the important thing is not to get defensive about it. The important thing is that's a good thing to know. You're okay, cool, chronically off. Write down what you think it's going to be, and then you go and do 3, 4, 5 times that, and you are going to take the time out. You are going to get it done, and obviously, keep in mind, anything I ever say, I'm not saying be pushy. I'm not saying be arrogant. None of those things. Ever. I'm saying be a pro, be proficient, be direct, be transparent, be certain, but be on mission, right? Be on mission to get it done, and be focused, be conclusion focused, right? Look at every one of your cycles and what does it take to conclude? What am I not doing to conclude this? I need to conclude this cycle. You need to conclude it for them and you. Whatever you're selling, the sooner they get it, the better. Decisions in companies, I firmly believe that you could start a consulting company that just consulted on shortening up decision time and dramatically increasing the efficiency of that company by itself. People take far too long to make decisions, and they think it's a great thing sometimes, and people sit there and we're going to think it over. It's grossly overrated. And it actually hurts companies. There's so much time that's just spent on making decisions, and people act like it needs to take a long time, but it truthfully doesn't. You basically know or you don't know almost instantly. Almost anybody knows or doesn't know right away. And yeah, maybe there's a couple things to look at, but in the grand scheme of things, if you're truly confronting something, it doesn't take a long time. And so when you're closing, if you've made it to the closing stages, by the way, if you've made it there, if you went through discovery, proposal review, selling and handling, asking and closing, you're down in this range, they're not window shopping, right? You're there. So it's yours to lose. Like if you're having conversations with people that are at closing, why are you not taking the time out of it to overshoot it and close it? They're not window shopping. You're at the wire. It's done. You have to conclude it though, which means you have to go like above and beyond. And look, there's a plague. You might get connected to the wrong person. You're just hanging on the wrong person. You got to go make sure that anybody connected to that deal is sold and is on board and is ready, is ready to do it. But the bottom line is the simple message of this show is basically understand that you have an estimation of effort, and then there's the reality of what it takes. And when you compare the two, you'll probably find if you're truly honest with yourself, you probably find that you're actually off by 2 or 3 or 4 times comparative to what it takes to get it closed. And so when you're sitting there and you're scratching your head and you're thinking, why is it not closing? Why is it not done? Why are they not signed off? There's a mismatch, right? Here's your work and here's what it takes. And you haven't handled consideration. You haven't gotten everybody on board. You haven't negotiated the terms. You haven't beaten up the negotiation. Something's missing, and the work you're doing is not adding up to what's required. And as soon as you take your work and you add it up to what's required, your deals are going to close. Okay? Wow. By the way, nowadays, 2016, people talk about hustle, blah, blah, blah. But very few people are running at that level of pace. They talk about it, they like to talk about it, they like to say, oh, hustle and all these different things, and you have all these different things that are out there, and yeah, the hustle and the work, and but very few people are doing it. Very few people are really pushing themselves. They're not really working. They're not making the 100 phone calls, so they're not doing this, or they're not doing that. They're not really working at that level. Ben and I talked about this earlier this week. You brought up a great point. But very few people. It's a nice thing to talk about. Don't talk about it. Do it.
And some people feel they're hustling because they don't feel they're being lazy. There's a difference. There's knowing you're not lazy, but then there's actually a whole other side of the spectrum. You might be sitting in the middle somewhere going, I'm working. Like I'm doing actions.
Yeah.
But like
I'm hustling. Yeah.
But I tell you what, I've commented to Robert a couple of times, and one thing I noticed. So I went through my morning this morning, and I was like, wow, I made a lot of calls. I reached people doing different things, and I checked my phone log, and you have to confront it, and I counted up the number of calls I made, and I went, oh my God, shoot, not even close to what I thought, and not even close to good enough.
Yeah.
So I spent the next 20 minutes more than doubling what I'd done all morning, just in terms of phone calls. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, now I have a better sense of what it is to move fast enough according to my own standards of what it is to like get something done and hustle. So it took 20 minutes to duplicate a 3-hour morning.
Yeah, 3 hours. So it seems like a lot, but it goes back to the estimation, right? People are chronically off on the estimation. You sit there and think, wow, I did a lot. Then you look at the log and you're like, nope, that's not that much.
Oh God.
There's a big discrepancy between estimation. I think it's just a human nature thing, but you have to constantly fight that resistance and then push up against it. And as long as you match the work you're doing matches with the work that's required to do it, you're going to see a massive change.
Yeah.
So hope that helps, and use that this week, and certainly use it towards the end of the year and go into the new year. That's going to help you a ton. Okay. Well, more coming at you soon. Make sure you subscribe to the channel there and hit the like button and share it on social. And we'll get us more coming towards the. We're coming to the end here. We have a show. This is show 96.
Heyo.
Well, not the end, but our initial target when we started the show was to get to 100. So we're 4 away. So we'll see where we go from there. And then we're
Next
gonna have
target's
some
like 1,000.
1,000. Yeah, good plans for 2017. So hope you enjoy it so far.